Tonight we'll talk about social media. So to dive right in, let me give a quick overview of what we're going to talk about. First, we're going to talk about what social media isn't and what it is. Talk about some of the major platforms. That includes what their audiences are, where they live, some demographic data on those platforms, on the users of those platforms, what to post in those platforms, and when to post in those platforms. Then after that, we'll talk about tools for work in social media. Some tools that can make it easier for you to work in that area, that systematizes your work, your efforts. Then we'll talk about creating a following in social media. We'll talk a little bit about measuring results in social media, and at the end we'll talk a little bit about viral marketing. When I first started working a little bit in this area, I had some clients that I set up a Facebook page for, and there were some very interesting conversations that happened when we set that up for them. And one of them was, a week or so after I had set up the Facebook page, they asked me, how much traffic the Facebook page had gotten. And so I decided to send them a long explanation of how social media works, because I anticipated there was some need for explanation. And particularly, it's not like a website it's not like a website that just gets traffic through SEO or organic traffic isn't as common in those areas, and so you have to do work to get people part of your pages, part of your followership, your page likes, etc. It takes effort, it takes work. It's not advertising. Social media is really it's not a one-way stream of communication. It's not just a platform for you to blast your message and hope that people will buy from you. It's also contrary to what you may have heard quite a bit, from gurus, social media gurus online. It's not your magic bullet for becoming successful overnight. And there are, of course, some outliers and some people that have managed that, but the great majority sadly hasn't. And mostly it is really that people that say it'll make you rich overnight because you will pay them to sign up for their course. So that's a little trick. It's really something that takes effort, it takes time. It's not from one day to the next you get a lot of business. Again, there are certain outlier situations, but that's the general rule. A little data on what's happening with social media as of January, as of last year. There were 2.7 billion total number of active social media users, and they and 37% were active social media users as a percentage of total population. So 37% of the total population are social media users. And total number of social media users that access social media via mobile is 2.5 billion, and you can see that's pretty close to the total number there. And active mobile social users as percentage of the total population is 34%. So what is social media? I would say it's, in my perspective, they are content sharing environments or communication platforms. And really, the way to work in those environments, the way to be successful in those environments is to add value and to contribute well to being part of conversations in those environments. Some of the key principles that also are, help you understand more what social media is about. One of the key principles is brand awareness. You may have heard of this term before, but it's essentially your effort of trying to get the word out about who you are as a company and and shaping a certain impression about who you are. You may have seen, advertisements from Nike, for example, that just say, just have a runner and then just do it. And it's not about a particular product that they're selling. It's about them wanting to connect, in your mind, that power that's behind just doing something and going out in nature and being alive, and those kind of impressions that you get when you watch that with their brand. And so brand awareness is something that plays a big role in social media, because even though there's also an advertising part in social media, you can advertise these platforms. In fact, that's how they make their revenue, how they make their money. But the organic way of working in those environments has to do with sharing content, contributing, and then having that content be shared by others, and in that way your brand gets known and seen and gets mentioned, and so that you become visible on the radar, essentially. Aspect of it is obviously public relations, and public relations primarily has to do with putting news out there about who you are, about new things that happen with your company, new developments, news. And a lot of social media platforms, you've probably seen your news feed before. It's even called news feed, and it has to do with the newest things that are happening. Same goes obviously for Twitter. It's also a platform where, even with when we talk about Arab Spring or things like that, it's a lot about fresh new content all the time. Part of that context is long-term relationships, establishing long-term relationships. It shows this picture because at one point I read this book called The Thank You Economy by
Gary Vaynerchuk.
Gary Vaynerchuk, thank you very much. And The Thank You Economy, he talks about social media, and if you haven't heard of him, look him up. Certainly when you are interested in social media, he has a very big consulting company on this. But he talks about social media as a way to kind of get back to where we were at one point with regards to our marketing. And that was that you had this neighborhood store where people came in, you knew pretty much everybody that came in, their needs, what they were interested in. You could give them their favorite dish that they like to eat, their favorite drink. Creating those kind of relationships is a part of what really, where the power of social media lies. Because you can find out the things that people are interested in, the needs of your customers, and you can respond to that. And if you do, in a creative and caring way, you can create wonderful publicity for yourself.
Can you spell the author's name?
Gary Vaynerchuk?
Yeah, the Vaynerchuk part.
Vaynerchuk. Vaynerchuk. Google it.
Vaynerchuk.
Yeah, something like that.
Is it a Struggle word?
Yes, okay, so. Another one is word of mouth on steroids.
Yeah, right.
This is sort of, it has changed a little bit since, you may have heard that over the years Facebook has changed its algorithm in its way to determine what it wants to present to you, in an effort of making it a more pleasant experience for you on Facebook, for example. And also it has, because of its interest in making money, it decreased the amount of potential reach that you can have with organic content. The amount of people that see what you post is limited because Facebook wants you to spend money to boost that post for more people to see it. At the same time, it still is, I'd still consider it word of mouth on steroids, in that, in the past, when you went to a restaurant and you liked to eat something, you liked a certain dish, or you went to a certain store and you liked how they treated you, you told maybe one or two other friends, But if you had a really great experience, sometimes, or you post a picture of this amazing dish that you had, and then people may ask you, where did you eat? This looks amazing, And so there's a conversation that starts, and there's a lot of more potential, a lot more people to see it, and so encouraging that is a great thing for your business, a great thing that you have to do. Another piece of it is being part of the community. A lot of how people communicate in social media environments is that they share things that kind of identify that communicate who they are, that show their values. I mean, if you think about it, you probably have done that before. When something came along that somebody else shared with you that you saw in your feed, that really felt like, yes, this is, I really agree with this. This could be me saying this. You tend to share something like that because you kind of want to communicate something that you feel you relate to so much, and with that you are part of you are part of a community online that talks about a certain subject. You're a part of a certain tribe, and obviously also there are within different environments, specifically in Facebook, there are groups. Also in Google Plus, there are groups where certain people with certain interests come and share that interest. How should I communicate? Stating quickly, I would say listen, participate, be honest, and be personal. And just like if you look at this person, they look friendly, they look like, they look friendly and warm. It's almost like you want to communicate like that person looks at you. In terms of listening, I mentioned that a little bit before, but you have this great power of starting to understand what the needs are of your audience. And in my last session also I mentioned how important it is for marketing to be able to put yourself in the shoes of your audience, to understand what they need, to understand what their context is, and being able to kind of to serve them in a way where they feel understood, where they feel respected, makes you a lot more successful in your efforts. Another thing that you should be doing when you work in social media is find influencers in your field, people that have a large following, that are very active on social media, that potentially if you share something with them that is of value, they may share also, they may further share with their audience. Participate. I already mentioned a little bit about being part of a community. Being part of a greater conversation is really effective. If there are things that happen on a local, global level, wherever your audience is, and that also again kind of communicates who you are as a brand, as a business. Communicating your value set, what you care about. You've probably perhaps seen this or heard about this mobile phone or mobile service provider before. I think it's in California, Cricket Wireless. So I don't remember the exact name, but they're kind of a progressive company, and they always post things that are sort of that share what they stand for, and in that way again are part of that overall community, and people that feel like that feel more inclined to do business with them than afterwards, or compared to perhaps other companies that they know are not as much in line with how they think. Pay attention to your social media feeds in terms of what's going on, obviously in terms of being part of the conversation, to participate. But also look in Google Trends and Twitter Trends. Google Trends is a website where you can see what's going on in terms of search volume for keyword phrases. So what people are searching for at that point in time, and how it's changing over time. So you see things that are sort of dying off in terms of what people are searching for, or something that's really growing exponentially. And obviously, in some cases, joining that bandwagon, that conversation, then is great. In Twitter Trends, same way. In Twitter search, you can put in your hashtags with your keyword phrases and find what the conversations are about there. Also, I'll provide some more resources on the course website that I'll mention at the end of this session that goes over, that lists more of what the trends are in Twitter per se. Also, I mentioned groups before. Joining groups is a good thing to do, especially if obviously you're a likely audience of yours, a likely market of yours is present in those groups. That's, at the end of the day, that's really what matters also. When you want to decide on, do I need to be in this platform? Do I need to do social media? Well, is your audience in this platform? Are they present here? That's a key question that you have to answer. You have to think about. Be personal. Don't broadcast, don't brag. Converse like a person and not like a stuffy corporation. Be aware that how you communicate creates an impression about your company. There's this example that's a painful one for Nestle. You've probably all heard of the company Nestle. At one point, they started a conversation on their Facebook page where they tried to address people using and playing with their logo and using their logo in ways that they didn't want to have used. And so they said, people, this is how you use our logo. This is how we want you to use our logo. And a whole storm came out of that situation where people were, arguing about freedom of speech, and it got really intense, and it was pretty uncomfortable for them.
Can you give more of an example of what happened?
No.
Okay.
That's the degree that I read about this, but
Okay.
I wasn't part of the conversation. But it's really you should have customer service people there that really know how to deal with people and be friendly and warm and caring, and not have this sort of, this is what we want you to do. This is not being so arrogant. You have to have that openness and warmth you need there. Be honest and show you care. I mentioned that a little bit, but admit your shortcomings. If confronted about them, and take criticism. Don't delete negative posts. This is something that's very important. Pay attention to this. It may be something that when you deal with that, it feels almost vulnerable when somebody attacks you online, and so many people can see that, and it's kind of a difficult situation. But I found that in the work that I've done in social media, that whenever I respected the perspective and showed that I cared and showed that I in some cases agreed with what they were saying, and that I wanted to improve, and that I had something in place to improve, that I had a action path, that turned into this really amazing situation, that turned into a positive, a good piece of publicity for you. So it's a wonderful opportunity actually to get good publicity. You really have to see it though. I mean, obviously there are limits, certainly if people start to be very vulgar or, making statements that are completely untrue, and you have to set certain boundaries. You can't just let everything go by. But certainly, if it's authentic, if they come from an authentic place, address that in a way where they feel respected and heard. And even, oftentimes I see this sort of, even the message that I'm posting here is sort of more, I would say, almost too generic. It almost doesn't, I feel like it's important in those situations to really address what the person is talking about. Just to say, we're so sorry that this happened to you, please message us or call us and we can get this resolved. It's better to really kind of to show some resolution and that you respect it. But in this case, there was the pool. This is for a hotel. The pool was not what I expected at all, and the person serving drinks was rude. I guess we are so sorry to hear that you were disappointed by your experience at our pool. Your comments have been shared with our leadership team, as we want each and every guest to have a fantastic time with us, especially while relaxing by our pool. Please feel free to direct message our page so we may learn more about your experience. We hope to welcome you back soon, as we are eager to provide you with the service all guests deserve. No, that's actually it's a good example. Yes.
Sort of showing those negative comments and so forth.
Yeah.
But it comes back to customer experience. If you have a bad customer experience, there's nothing you can do on social to fix that. So if you're getting a lot of bad feedback on social media, it probably means you're delivering a bad customer experience.
Right.
And so the companies in the early days of social media, they went out and all went mad on social media, and they all got feedback about how poor their customer experience was.
Right. Yeah. This is sort of it perhaps goes more towards the sort of be personal and be show that you care perspective, but there is use in automated messages. Certainly, when somebody signs up to your if you have an email newsletter or something like that. But in this case, this was a little misplaced. Congrats to American Air and US Airways on creating the largest, shadiest airline in the world. And then their automated message says, thanks for your support. We look forward to a bright future as the new American. So, in that case, it would have been better to have a customized airline and to kind of go, explore what they are actually, what created that experience for them. Okay. Now talking a little bit more about going into the platforms. I'll talk about the few most commonly used platforms at the moment. And first, obviously, is Facebook. At this time, 75% of internet users, male internet users, are on Facebook, and 83% of women internet users are on Facebook. And so you see that it has a little bit more of a female audience. You also see that it is certainly a younger audience, with most of them being in their age range between 18 and 29. In terms of location, most of them are urban or in rural areas, and less so in southern areas. Interesting enough. And this data comes from Sprout Social, if you want to dig into this a little more. Sprout Social is a tool that helps make work in social media easier, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, but they also have done quite a bit of research on this topic. Income. Mostly below $30,000 a year. So in the lower income bracket, most of their audience is in that range. And then most of them have some college experience, and spend some time in college. In terms of when to publish, this is from blog.hubspot.com. HubSpot is also another platform that's really it can really be helpful in your efforts in social media. Best time to post or publish is, for engagement specifically, is on Sundays and on Saturdays and on Sundays. So on the weekends primarily, but also closer to the end of the weekend when people, closer to the end of the week when people are getting ready for the weekend and getting a little more excited and perhaps look at what's going on in the community and feel more relaxed. And the best times to post are around 8 a.m. and as well as 1 p.m. and 3 p.m. Obviously also during the times that we talked about. On the weekend, the worst times that you could probably guess are on the weekend before 8 a.m. or 8 p.m. or after 8 p.m. Some tips that I give. They say here, people seem happy on Friday, so funny or upbeat content will fit right into the happiness index of that day. Posting at 3 p.m. will get you the most clicks, while 1 p.m. will get you the most shares.
Wow.
Use Facebook analytics and fan page karma to track your data and see when your audience is online. This is obviously, this is data that it's overall data, and so, further doing a little bit of your homework and listening and paying attention to what your audience is actually doing is the next step after this. So, because this is general data, it's good to get data on exactly your audience, because they may have different browsing patterns, different browsing behavior. What to post? Post your best blog articles, post videos, images, and other graphic content. Create live video. Mix of content. Some content gets more leads, gets smaller reach articles. Oh wait, this is specifically about blog articles. Blog articles, at least from what we've seen, gets a bit of a smaller reach, but tend to have a better impact when, on actual sales, on actual lead generation on your website. And then don't post a message made of just text. Obviously, what you want to do is you want to stand out in the newsfeed. You want to stand out when people scroll down, when they look through the content. You want something that's bold and, that they recognize, and not something that sort of is so subdued that they don't see it, almost, because of all the other noise that's there. You want to stand out from the noise. And so, having again, video with text, or images with text, or images that have text on top of it is, oftentimes you've probably seen graphics with quotes on them. That's a great thing to do, especially if it's motivational. And yes, I mentioned before that there's this change in the algorithm of Facebook, and so it's harder for you to get this organic reach. But there are also sometimes things that Facebook does in a new way that it supports. A couple of years back, that was its new video platform. So we're starting to compete with YouTube, where I wanted to have people creating video and posting video on YouTube, on Facebook. And the same thing happens now with live video. Facebook really likes and wants to support live video, and so if you create live video, that's a great way for you to get more exposure.
Should we do it now?
Yes.
This isn't a silly question, but I do see people, like taking an image and then putting their own quote and their name. I mean, can I ask, what are they using to make that?
Good question. I mean, there you go. That's an answer. A platform called Canva. That's especially if you don't know how to do photo work. It's an online tool that provides you with templates that are pre-designed, where you can just put in some text and images, and it's very easy. I mean, even going beyond social media graphics, you can make brochures and posters and flyers with that platform. It's a great tool. Highly recommended.
Canva.
Correct.
.com, yeah.
Yeah. And if you have a little more understanding and want a little more flexibility, there's a tool called Pixlr. So Pixlr.com. It's if you've heard of Photoshop before, it's a little bit like Photoshop, but it's free, and yeah, gives a little more flexibility and a little more customization options. Okay, how often to post? Data that I found online suggests that it's generally good to post 2 times per day, but that also depends on your followership. If you have 10,000 followers or more, posting 2 times a day is good. Less than that, having more 1 time per day is probably sufficient. But specifically with its change in algorithm, and this also got probably fueled somewhat by this whole Russia deal, and but also by Facebook has this conflict that at one point, on the one hand, it wants to earn money, and it gets that through ad revenue, and so it wants people to advertise. But if there's too much of that advertising stuff in your newsfeed, people start to have less of an enjoyable experience. So it's a really difficult kind of balance that they have to line that to walk, and specifically with the algorithm changes that because they want more and more to have a pleasant experience for the user. Also, it's good to be more on the quality side versus quantity. To really listen and know what they want and give that to your audience. Content. Instagram. This is probably the fastest growing company at the moment, or platform at the moment, with, again, mostly a female audience, and also, but much more towards the younger age ranges. This is also probably, with Snapchat, the platform where most younger, also below 18, where younger people spend their time. And here the audience is mostly in urban areas. On the lower end, you have most of them, but then also actually on the higher end, a lot of people that do earn more than $75,000 a year use this platform. And then again, with some college degree being the most prevalent. Instagram has very low engagement on Sundays particularly, and the best days to post are Monday and Thursday. Best times are 2 a.m., 8 to 9 a.m., and 5 p.m. 2 a.m., huh?
Yeah.
This is sort of a thing that probably has to do with, and this is speculation, but that when you post at night, that it's sort of a fresh thing that people get to in the morning when they first start seeing content. So here, stated out a little bit with some tips. Best time to post between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. Avoid posting between 3 and 4 p.m. Yes. Posting video on Instagram at 9 p.m. gets 34% more interactions. Post content more during off-work hours than during the workday, aside from peak times. It's sort of a thing that, especially also in the evening when people get off of work, people spend their time.
Are these statistics just in the U.S. or all around?
Yes.
US, yeah.
What to post? So there's two different ways to post in Instagram. It's primarily, it's a visual environment where you post what they're called posts and stories. And posts are essentially, it's usually a picture with can have some text. Where stories, posts can also be video, but stories are sort of their attempt to having something that's, Snapchat has content that expires, and so stories also expire after 24 hours. So something that's sort of very current. But generally, it's visual content that you post there. The topics there that work quite well are, around human lifestyle and hobbies, interests, travel, food, telling a story about who you are with pictures and video. It's talking about brand awareness, particularly, when you kind of tell a story of who you are with pictures, with videos. This is what we did today. This is what happened. That highlights your values and what you're interested in. Telling a story. Yes.
So technical question.
Yes.
Instagram is primarily a mobile app.
Yes.
If I want to post memes like pictures with quotes on and things like that, how do I get them from a desktop to Instagram?
Good question. I don't know that answer, but
There's a desktop
there's
app.
there's also a desktop app. So the question was, yes, how do I, it being a mostly mobile environment,
Because I know they try to keep it that way.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
don't
yeah.
want to be like Facebook. So.
right. Yeah, no, I'm so you know, that makes sense, of course. That they have a desktop version of it, and you know, in fact, I am on there, and I've seen it in my browser. But
Some limitations are, if anybody really knows, I'd like to know if somebody really knows how to do that.
okay, yeah,
You probably did.
that is not entirely my area, so
So is the hashtag
Yeah.
the same as the one for Twitter?
yes, it
So
is the
you
same.
could
It's
use
sort
it
of
for either.
yeah, okay.
And the app would be what your business name is, your username or whatever?
Correct. It's if you want, and yeah, I was just about to talk about that. So.
Sorry.
So the @ works the same. The @ and the hashtag work the same way as in Twitter, in that almost the same way. The @ is a way to direct to tag somebody in a post that you're creating.
Can you give an example?
Sure. I mean, for example, if you know some influencer in your field. And you're sharing some content that they may like. You share a picture, say of a good restaurant, and then tag them, you know, and then say, you know, this is something they like as well.
So
I want you to try.
did you tag the person after the @
Yes, that's right. Yeah, it's
So in the text of the post you...
in the text of the post. Yes, exactly. Yes.
And when you're tagged, it shows up that you've been tagged in the picture.
Right.
Usually you have to have a profile.
Yeah. Exactly. Yes, good point. For that to happen, for you to be able to actually include somebody in the post, they have to have their own. They have to have an account. They have a profile, just like in Facebook. You know, in Facebook you can also tag people in content. The hashtag works a little different. I mean, it does help you connect and highlight what your content is about, but you can add multiple, up to I believe 30, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 30 hashtags per post, where you type in these hashtags and where you tell the system what your content is about. So if people search for some hashtag, you know, yours is the one that shows up.
So that's like keywords in SEO?
It is like keywords in SEO, exactly. Yes. Especially in your old days of SEO, where you have meta keywords, where you put, you know, your different phrases on your website. This is like that exactly. Yes. Yes.
It seems like this would be more for people, just individuals, as opposed to businesses. Is that true?
You know, considering that it's about stories and telling stories about who you are, it certainly works well. It works more effectively in that regard. You know,
Isn't it more social? Social sharing of what you're doing? I don't know. It seems like it's more in that.
Yeah.
That side,
Well,
of the business side.
It's certainly true. And I mean, but then again, you know, it's a lot of it is about this brand awareness about who you are, and even a company can you know, tap into that, can kind of tell a story about who they are, especially if they have a person like Elon Musk heading them. How much to post? The data that I found suggests that it is good to post several times per day, but what's more important is that you keep up a certain frequency, that you stay consistent, that you don't drop off with that frequency. So kind of making a decision on how much you can post and then sticking to that is important for Instagram. Twitter has it's almost 50-50 in terms of male and female. Also still in the younger age range, interestingly enough. Yes.
And what's the other 50% for this year?
And in this case, they are as you probably expected, mostly in urban areas. They are mostly, they earn mostly, or most of them earn more than $75,000. That's the market, or the group that.
I wonder why Trump does it so much, because it does come to such a young audience. You know,
It's true,
and
yeah.
then Huffington Post makes a big deal of it, but that's stupid.
Well, and again, I mean, but also, you know, this is general data. This is, again, you know, you always have to then go in and figure out, okay, is my audience here or not? You know, this is general data, so take it with a grain of salt. Education level, mostly higher education also, which, to your point, is interesting again. Twitter. B2B performs 60% better during business hours, and B2C performs 17% better on weekends. That's not a surprise.
B2B means what?
Business to business. So if you, as a business, serve another business, or that's who you want to reach, that is when you should post. Or if you sell to customers that are not businesses themselves, then that is B2C. Best time to post, 12 p.m., 3 p.m., 5 p.m., 6 p.m. And Wednesdays around noon and between 5 and 6 p.m. are peak moments during workers' breaks. Twitter users are 181% more likely to be on Twitter during their commute. It's a short update kind of thing that, you know, somewhat dangerous. But because they're short messages, I guess they are. Use Twitter Analytics and follower wonk to track data on your own followers to find the best times. Tweet again, you know, digging in and finding your own audience, finding what your own audience is doing is key.
How do you do that?
With these tools. So Twitter Analytics and this tool called follower wonk help you track your followers and what's going on with them when they're active. What to post? I mentioned before, you know, Twitter specifically is really good for PR. It's an environment where most updated content, where news, where exciting announcements, new developments have their home, and but also answering questions of influencers is a great thing to do to create visibility. You know, if one of the influencers asks a question with a hashtag, then giving them a valuable answer is a great way to get some more people to see, to again create brand awareness. Posting blog articles, and also again using images whenever possible because of that same effect that images are more visible, help you more stand out in the news feed or the Twitter feed than just text content. Pinterest. Pinterest is mostly is an environment that's heavily used by women more so than men, and since it's a social media environment, it's pretty much the trend here is again used more by the younger audience, but the spread is a little more even. And here again, actually here it's mostly used in suburban, or a lot of the audience is in suburban environments. Income levels are at 75,000 or more.
A quick question.
Yes.
Well, I see 4 columns that are almost exactly the same percentage.
Yeah, they're very
And
close.
does it make a big deal that it's
No.
5% more, that we
No, it doesn't.
suddenly think 75K is important?
No.
Okay, I just wanted to know.
I mean, it gives you some indication, but you know, no, it's a pretty even spread there. Okay. With regards to college, also certainly it seems like at least some more college experience. Pinterest posting on Pinterest is most effective on Saturdays and Sundays, and there are even topics per each day that are the most effective. So posting about food on Sundays, about fitness on Mondays, gadgets on Tuesdays, quotes on Wednesdays, outfits on Thursdays, gifts on Fridays, and travel on Saturdays. Most of them. If you're also posting during the week, try to target the top subject of the day, like they say here. Best times to post are 2 p.m., 9 p.m., and 2 a.m. Morning. Best times to post on Pinterest are between 8 and 11 p.m., especially on Saturdays. The worst time on Pinterest is during work hours. So it's also more of a weekend or an evening kind of environment. Make sure to include a call to action. 80% of people that see your content during peak times won't interact otherwise. So considering that, using that. And Pinterest is also a very graphic environment. If you've been there before, you've probably seen that. It's just actually, if you look at the Pinterest screen, and we'll take a look at that in a moment, it's just images, but then also superimposed text. What to post? Obviously the topics that we've talked that you've seen, but then also crafts and artworks, recipes, clothing, blog articles again, also good to post there. Pinterest is pretty good in terms of your ability to link back to your website. Instagram makes it a little bit harder on you, but actually going back to Instagram for a moment, the only way to link from Instagram is from your profile, your bio. And so whenever you post something, also adding yourself as a tag, so then they, saying, if you want to learn more about this, go to my page, and so then they can find the link to your website on your bio. Going back to Pinterest, so yeah, it's a very it's also very visual, like I said, environment where these sort of creative things have their home in a lot of ways. Other platforms to mention, LinkedIn, more of a professional environment, a professional platform where you post your resume, what your experience level is, and connect with colleagues, and most of the audience there is male actually, and Snapchat is it's a picture-taking app where you can quickly take pictures and adjust them in a funny way and share them, but then also that where the content expires on Snapchat, so it doesn't stay there as in other platforms. Google Plus is one that you've probably heard of, and I think it probably has died by now, but it's still around, and there are actually some very vibrant and active groups within Google Plus. Tumblr, it's what they refer to as a micro-blogging platform, which also somewhat refers to Twitter. But Tumblr more is, it has more content, and it's more of really a little blog than perhaps Twitter is, because Twitter obviously has its character limits. And then Reddit is a platform where people can also share images and other content, but in Reddit, the interesting thing is that content there is up or down voted. So it's a lot more of an organic process, not as much of an algorithm that decides on what content is good or bad, but more of what people like. Now let's talk a little bit about tools for work in social media, and I'm going to have to speed it up a little bit because I'm seeing that we're getting closer to finishing up here. Sort of deadline or our end of the evening. Tools for working in social media. One of them I already mentioned is called sproutsocial.com. And there are these really wonderful tools that allow you to, you could think, wow, if I have to be present in Instagram and Facebook, on Twitter, if I want to cross-promote my content in all these environments, how do I? Gosh, it's a pretty big load of work. But these platforms allow you to bring it all into one environment, where you can actually plan ahead, where you can essentially create your content months in advance and just schedule when you want it to be posted, and it'll do that automatically. And it also, allows you, in addition to the sort of planning and posting, it also brings the conversation into one environment. So if people comment on certain things you do or mention you as a company, you can respond from within those platforms. And another tool like that is called Hootsuite. It does pretty much the same thing. TweetDeck is another environment that's free, where it's more of a it's geared towards Twitter, as you may have guessed, and in this environment you can also create a dashboard where you can see get updates on certain topics. So if you want to stay up to date on information, on certain trends, on content. Say, for example, me as an internet marketing consultant and web designer, I may be wanting up-to-date information on user experience design, on UX, or on new social media marketing strategies. So you can use TweetDeck to stay up to date on those topics. Evernote.com. Evernote is another handy tool for keeping. For saving information. If you browse the web and find something that's interesting that you want to maybe post later, you can save that in Evernote and then organize it in that tool. It's a very nice tool that makes it really easy to clip, to take screenshots or save URLs or save the whole pages.
I'll make a comment.
Yeah.
I use Evernote all the time. What I have is for classes for teachers, it's fantastic because instead of having to write something up every time, you write it once, save it on Evernote, copy and paste it into a syllabus. Yeah. It's fantastic.
Yeah. It's a great tool. I recommend it. I mean, even for other work, not,
Yeah, I'm just saying for teachers, it's fabulous.
One thing to mention, and this is sort of not as much of a tool as it is important to be aware of when you set up a website and want people to share your content, is open graph content.
What is that? Is that a website? I mean, is that a...
No. Open graph content is it's essentially content that, if you enable people to share your website on social media, you tell it what to share. So you tell the tool that you're using, and the next thing that we're mentioning here is @this.com and sharethis.com. These are both platforms that help you, that add little, share icons, Facebook, Twitter, etc., share icons to your website. That then, when people like some of your content, can just click on and then, share something on Facebook simply, really easily. And this content, these meta tags, make sure that what is shared is what you want to be shared. You're feeding essentially these kind of tools with you're saying, okay, I want this title to show as the title for the share. I want I'll give it an example for this in a moment. I want this description to show this, going beyond the title, and I want this image to be shown for the share. If you don't do that, the share icon or the share tool will just pick something from the page that it considers representative, and that may not be what you want to share. So using Open Graph tags is important. Oh my gosh, I am late again. Creating a following. Obviously, it's a bit of a long process, generally speaking. Contribute in a qualitative manner. Advertise to prospective audience. You can certainly also advertise for likes on Facebook. You can, send, when you advertise in Facebook, you can either send people to your website, but also to your Facebook page and have them like your page. But one thing I don't recommend doing, and that's some tactic that some internet marketing gurus sometimes recommend, is advertising for likes that are not your audience, but are cheap to advertise to. So, for example, advertising to people in the U.S. is a lot more expensive on Facebook than advertising to people in Pakistan. And so, you know, you can get a lot of likes from Pakistan. You can get a lot of people to like your page for a very low price, but they will never do business with you. And the only thing that you're getting is a bigger like number. And so I've seen that happen in the past, and I never recommend it. I think it's better to have an organic process where you share good content and build your follower base and network. Measuring results. So there are a few things that are mostly measured when you do work in social media. Sadly, we don't have time to look at, you know, Facebook Insights or other things like that, but I can point you to and explain that a little bit more on the website, the course website. But some of the main things you're tracking is reach, and this is for brand awareness. It's essentially how many people are seeing your content. Engagement, how many people are liking, sharing, commenting on your content. And then, you know, with tools like Google Analytics, you can track what efforts on social media are resulting in actual sales or leads on your website. So that's obviously a very important piece of the puzzle. And then, you know, new followers and likes of pages. That's generally sort of how effective is your overall efforts of building your followership on Facebook. Viral marketing. Viral marketing refers to, you know, as a virus. You know, a virus spreads very rapidly when it gets into an environment where there are a lot of potential hosts, and in the same way, you know, when shows in online marketing, and specifically in social media, because of the word of mouth, the on steroids kind of phenomenon that when you share something, a lot of people see it, and again, if a lot of those people share it, it can really grow exponentially in terms of its visibility. And you know, creating content obviously that organically spreads like that is wonderful. That's one of the biggest goals in your marketing, in your social media marketing efforts. And so some of the key things that are important when trying to create this content is that it's authentic, that you don't have a goal with it, that really the goal is brand awareness, that you just want people to recognize you. You don't want a direct sale or something to result from it. That's very important. That positive content is more viral than negative content. Content oftentimes that evokes a strong emotion is really good for creating this viral effect. But also something that's funny, something, you know, obviously kittens or babies, or, you know, you've heard of those things before and seen them, or little animals. But again, because they partly also make you happy, or they evoke a strong emotion. Being part of, again, if there's some global conversation, a trend that's happening, where you kind of plug into that trend and kind of surf that wave of the trend, that's a good way to make your content go viral. Anger and happiness videos get shared more than videos with sadness or relaxation. A little nice example that I have for actually a company in town, and this is what I'm closing with tonight. A company that is called iPhone Life magazine. You've probably, or Mango Life Media is the publisher behind iPhone Life magazine. But iPhone Life magazine had this really good idea when Steve Jobs stepped down from his CEO position. They created a Dress Up Like Steve Jobs Day. This was like, you know, maybe a month afterwards or so, and they created a Facebook event. And this thing went crazy. It got picked up by all major news networks, and you know, the founder of the Smurfs dressed up a big Smurf like Steve Jobs and they had this whole thing where it's sending in pictures, and so it was a tremendous way for them to become visible online. And there's countless stories of this where you just have a really creative idea where you somehow plug into what's going on, and then can tremendously benefit with brand awareness through that. So, yes.
How do ad blockers affect this entire conversation?
Sorry?
Ad blockers.
How do ad blockers affect this whole conversation?
Ad blockers. Interesting. It's a bit off of the topic today. I mean, we'll talk about advertising next week, actually. And let's talk about it then, why don't we? Because mostly this was about organic spreading of information, and ad blockers aren't really playing a role there. It's more about advertising. When you advertise online, that ad blockers are a problem. Anyways, that was it for me tonight. Thank you all for coming.